Hello, Internet, and hello, Chiptune Brony. I see that you're already in the chat. My name is Catherine Barsonistis, and you are watching the Glutton's Geek Presents Munchies and Minis, a cooking show where I make a recipe inspired by various tabletop role-playing games such as Dungeons & Dragons, Pathfinder, Pugmire, and whatever happens to fall across my table. Today's recipe, we are going back to Dungeons & Dragons, and once again going through one of Volo's guides. As I went over last episode, Volo's Guide to, well, pretty much everywhere is a series of Dungeons and Dragons supplements, but published back during 3.5 edition, specifically about Ed Greenwood's world, Faerun Forgotten Realms campaign. Volo's guides kind of act as sort of a travel guide / restaurant guide review of pretty much anywhere this bard Volo happens to go. Fun fact, if you happen to play Baldur's Gate 3, you can actually see Volo. He makes an appearance, and he can even join your camp. It's kind of fun. And thanks, Chiptune Brony. Yes, today I also released this recipe for smoked pork loin based off of the Dungeons & Dragons podcast Loot and Dagger, done by my very good friends here in Atlanta. I hope you do check it out. It was a delicious recipe. I even kind of did it a little bit on a previous episode just because I needed to, kill two birds with one stone. And, I already have everything out. Might as well have that going on the same time. Anyway, yes, today's recipe, we are going, instead of from Volo's Guide to the Sword Coast, we are going to Volo's Guide of the Dale Lands. The Dale Lands, located once again in Faerun, are based off of kind of a southern France. At least that's probably what the culture is most like. But it also happens to be near Sembia, which is thought to be very similar to Netherlands. This particular recipe, the Blackwater Stout Cream Puffs, is from a tavern located in the town of Blackfeather Bridge. Now, the Blackfeather Bridge is actually a caravan stop point within the Dale Lands, and it kind of acts a little bit like a tourist destination. I mean, like, instead of Vegas, think of it more as Reno on the way to Vegas, or maybe you're stopping like by Carson City and I'm not sure if that's the right, Branson in Missouri on the way to Vegas. It's not so touristy where you want to go specifically to Blackfeather Bridge, but you're more than happy to stop by there for a day or two and just, take a little bit of a break from traveling to spend your hard-earned coin on various sites that happen to be in the region. And this particular case, and we are going for the tavern, the Blackwater Stout, which is kind of interesting because it seems a little bit like one of those really trendy, like overly trendy restaurants that's trying too hard to get the higher edge clientele in. I'm going to go ahead and read the description from Volo's Guide to the Dale Lands. This tavern just opened this past season and is still looking for its proper role. It has a dozen upstairs rooms for rent, but only the deaf could sleep there when the taproom below is doing its usual roaring trade. And I do mean roaring. The stout serves a home-brewed ale called, naturally enough, Blackwater Stout, that I found curiously sweet and wry in taste, as if someone had taken a strong stout and mixed it in melted licorice. Perhaps that's what just happened. Travelers can enjoy a huge selection of wines, beers, and stronger drink here, equal to the picking at any Sembian roadhouse, including the horrible watered-down and sugared wines called Cool Throat Sips that are now sweeping the realm. Ugh. And I'm assuming by Cool Throat Sips, he probably means kind of the medieval fantasy version of a wine cooler. But I continue, reading off the description. To liven one's drinking, the stout is laid in the usual salted nuts and roasted almonds, plus chilled shrimp, and for a last twist, cream puffs. The puffs are one good way to entice other Featherdarren farmers in the door, and the stout has not missed the other way either. Dancers. Yes, it goes on to explain how they basically have exotic dancers coming and dance the black velvet covered runway that happens to be down the middle of the restaurant, which kind of sounds a little bit like a strip club, but I'm taking it more of kind of a show, like kind of a showcase cabaret that you're probably going to find like Moulin Rouge, or, you know, trying desperately to be like that. So, yes, I've gone over my description tonight. We are actually going to be making cream puffs, and not just any cream puffs. No, we're going to be making a beer based cream puff. Like, the dough itself is going to be made with some Guinness Extra Stout, as well as some Chinese 5-spice powder, because to get that licorice flavor, you're either going to need to use licorice extract, which is not all that terribly easy to find, and also, admittedly, whenever you use an extract in baking, it tends to kind of overpower whatever you're baking up. So, like, just like when you use vanilla extract, yeah, we're not gonna. No, it just kind of overtakes things. Same with any kind of any other kind of flavored extract. Otherwise, to get that kind of licorice flavor, you're going to want to use aniseed, which I discovered is very difficult to find in grocery stores, or for a good old American white bread gourmet staple, Chinese 5-spice powder, which usually tends to have star anise in it, which has that kind of similar licorice taste, without, you know, having to boil star anise, like full star anise pods. So we're going to be using that in our dough. As we saw earlier, and in the description for the Blackwater Stout, we have salted nuts and almonds. So our whipped cream is going to be based off of that almond flavor. We are going to use an extract. We're going to be using some almond extract to flavor our whipped cream, as well as add a little bit of sea salt to kind of make it sort of a salted sweet cream. I think it'd be very tasty. So, I am blathering on, and we might as well get started before you guys lose interest. So, first, you are definitely going to need to pull together your ingredients. First, I'm just going to go ahead and get the sea salt we need by grinding it, because I forgot this big thing of sea salt I have from Italy is not actually ground. So we're going to need about 2 teaspoons plus a pinch. 2 teaspoons for the dough, as well as, there we go. Probably don't need that much. It's okay though, we will make this work. I just need enough ground to fill 2 teaspoons. Okay, now that I've waited patiently without asking you a question, here I come. Would there be meatloaf sandwiches? You know, I think I'm going to try it at some point. I'm just not sure entirely when, considering that I am very behind in my blog posts recipes, and yeah, I haven't really figured out what to make yet. I've figured out 1 or 2 things, but I haven't really committed to anything. So yeah, I suppose I can make some meatloaf recipes. I think it was bacon meatloaf with peanut butter sandwiches from the, what's it called? The children's book, Dog vs. Cat. That might be a pretty good tie-in. I mean, my catfish stew recipe from that book did pretty darn well. So, why the heck not? So, I just need to go grocery shopping this weekend. I was going to go camping, but since the husband recently got a new job, we don't want to mess too much with the PTO days he hasn't really accrued yet. So, yeah. Pretty sure he is not going to argue with any meatloaf sandwiches, because honestly, that's one of our favorite things. There is this, well, I can't really call it a chain of Irish pubs because there's only 2 locations, but one of them got voted one year as the best Irish pub in the world by the International Association of Irish Pubs. The pub is called what's it called? Old Blind Dog, which is kind of funny considering the book we're referencing to. But yes, it's called Old Blind Dog. There's 2 locations, one in Alpharetta, Georgia, and the other one, well, Milton, Georgia, and the other one is located in Atlanta in the Brookhaven area. And yeah, first I'll say it looks a little bit like Disney World tried to create an Irish pub and then lowered the budget about 3/4 of the way through the project. It looks fantastic in there, and most notable is the life-size mannequin statue, a depiction of William Wallace. Anyway, one of my favorite recipes on the menu is their meatloaf sandwich, which is a mix of ground beef and ground lamb. And it is served with melted cheese. It's just a whole collection of herbs in there. And it's served with kind of a spicy ketchup on the side. Oh, and with caramelized onions. Yeah, it is absolutely delicious. And honestly, it's like 1/2 of it's enough to feed you for the evening, especially if you happen to be drinking one of the Imperial pint-sized beers you can get, also at Old Blind Dog. My favorite, like, they have a, like, you know, you ever heard of a black and tan where it's like, I think it's stout mixed with, I think it's harp lager? Well, they have different variations on, like, kind of a beer mixed cocktail type things. One of which is my favorite, is the Diesel. Okay, that is pretty finely ground. We'll work with that. The Diesel is, goodness, I want to say cider mixed with harp and black currant liqueur. It is delicious, especially with a meatloaf sandwich. Also, if you ever go to Old Blind Dog, highly recommend the cheese dip, which comes with, you know, pretzel bread and all that. It's an ale cheddar dip. Fantastic. Okay, so as I was saying, first you got to measure your ingredients. So for the dough, interesting thing about cream puff dough, it's called Choux Pastry. It's actually a very egg-based dough, but you first cook it by heating up the liquid ingredients before adding, well, liquid ingredients except for the egg, in a saucepan, because when you put the flour in, it's like you would do with a roux. You cook the flour a little bit to kind of activate all the fats and get that all going. So first we're going to need our liquid parts of our dish. So first you're going to need about 1/2 cup of whole milk. I would just use beer, but I also want the flavors of the spices to come out a little bit more, and for that you're going to need a little bit more fat. Though feel free to make this part entirely beer if you do so choose. You're going to need some dark stout, like Guinness Extra Stout. I would have gone with probably spicier, darker stout, but this was also the least expensive dark stout that I had at Publix. And if we have time and energy, I'll also kind of try to put together sort of a take on the Blackwater Stout as a drink. So yeah, then we're just going to add a 1/2 cup of that beer. There we go. And the rest can be a sacrifice for yourself, for your own drinking purposes. Next, we're going to need to add, and I realize I did not get my sugar yet. I'll have to get that in a bit. However, while I had this stuff out, we're now going to be adding a teaspoon of our Chinese 5-spice powder. And feel free to use a smaller spoon to get that out of the jar. In this case, it's a 1/4 teaspoon. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Cool beans. And let's see, salt, spices. You're going to need 2 teaspoons of that salt we just ground up. Or, no, you're going to need 2 teaspoons of sugar. You're going to need 1/4 teaspoon of that sea salt. So we're going to have a lot of sea salt ready to go for things. That's okay. I could just use it for rituals or something. And 2 teaspoons of sugar, so I don't have to go downstairs to get my sugar. Thank goodness. So, it's 1/2 teaspoon. Just going to grab 2. 1, 2, 3, and 4. But yeah, I imagine peanut butter and cheese and a meatloaf would be pretty darn tasty, considering that very popular pub dish, believe it or not, in most English pubs is curry. And it has to do mostly with the big Indian immigrant population that came to the UK, and also the fact that chicken tikka masala was in fact invented in the UK, believe it or not. Alright, and now we need butter. So you're going to need about 1/2 cup of butter, which is going to equal out to a standard stick of unsalted butter that you can get at the grocery store. i.e. 4 ounces, or, about 8 tablespoons worth of unsalted butter. We are going to need to cube that up. And by cube that up, it doesn't have to be insanely perfect. We're just going to make it smaller so it melts faster. So it is perfectly acceptable to just cut up tablespoons of the butter. Or just cut it as you would, as it will let you. It will not judge, for it is butter. And not your estranged aunt-in-law who is asking why you are not having children yet. So, there we go, we got our butter. And now, I just need to heat this up. So, let's go ahead and switch to our stove cam. Shake that up a wee bit. And turn it on medium heat for now. Doop-a-doop-a-doop-a-doo. Yes, you are turning it on medium heat, and you first need to wait for the butter to melt. Well, I guess stir it until the butter melts. That's not really stirring, I know. Okay, I'll stir the thing. And this is when you're going to need a spatula. Now, fun thing about choux pastry, at least it is, fun for me, being half Romanian, cooking it is kind of like how you would cook polenta or mamaliga, where once you get the liquid all nice, hot, and simmery, you add the dry bits, this part, being flour, and stir, and it kind of creates this wicked dough pretty much immediately. It just kind of swarms around the pan, well, rolls around the pan. And you'll see what I mean in a minute when we happen to get this going. Let's see here. My watered down wine. Ooh. Yes, we are actually in that part of the night. And let's try the beer. I'm curious. That is actually really good. To give you an idea, I've had Guinness before, I've just never gotten the extra stout before, because a lot of times when you see Guinness, it's either at a bar or someone else has bought it, and not everyone goes for the extra stout. And I'm finding I really like the extra stout. I'm gonna have to get that next time I'm creating stout. I'm all for that. You know, it's crazy because I used to drink pretty much candy beer all the time. Like, you know, Belgians, but American Belgian style, where it's just so... I mean, the stouts and porters are so syrupy that it's too much. I mean, I can't have more than a sip or two before, well, I'm full. It's like, oh gosh, it's like there's certain desserts I cannot eat because the sweetness is just so overpowering and they're just so rich that I can't have more than a bite or two. And it's really dissatisfying in that respect because I feel like I didn't really get my money's worth because I can't really enjoy it to its fullest. You know what I mean? And that's how I am now with a lot of beers. A lot of the sweeter beers, especially the ones done by Southern Tier. I mean, I don't know if I think it's probably maybe my taste buds changed, but okay, our butter is almost melted. Okay, our butter is pretty much melted. And now we just need to wait for this mixture to come to a simmer, which we are getting really close to, as you can see. I just need to pull over all those instructions I wrote earlier. Derpa derpa der. Okay. Simmer and the things with the things. And that is about a simmer. So now we're just going to lower our heat, well, to, oh, we can go a little bit more. Just going to wait for the whole pot to simmer. Yep, that's it. And now I'm just going to set it down to low. Now that I've done that, I'm just going to add all my flour at once. Just all of it. And all that flour is about a half a cup. Well, no, it is a cup of all-purpose flour. And now we just stir. And continue to stir until all of that is moistened and creating a dough, and preferably not lumpy. Just gonna keep on stirring that. Okay. See what I mean? How it just kind of comes together? Now, if you're worried about those lumps, don't be, because we are going to be adding butter to the mix as well. Alright, so now we have a dough. I'm just going to continue to stir it for about a minute. So I'm just going to set a timer real quick for a minute. As you see, it's kind of creating almost kind of a Play-Doh type of dough here. It's kind of cool. But this is just kind of cooking the flour to get a little bit of that nuttiness flavor into it. And what I meant was we're going to be adding eggs, not butter. Stupid me. And just continue to do this whole kind of stir flip. Stir flip. And I can definitely smell the 5-spice powder right now. So now, just turn that off and turn my stovetop off. And we're just going to find where the heck I put my trivet. Here we are. And just stick that there. And I'm just going to set the timer for about 5 minutes to cool. And preheat my oven to about 400 degrees Fahrenheit. the meantime, and yes, there is a meantime in this particular section, we're going to remember what the heck I was going to do. Right, I was going to beat the eggs. So you're going to need about 4 large eggs for this next part. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so I'm just gonna grab a fork because said what's it called? Brain is not working. A wire whisk is not entirely needed in this particular application. That was a good beer. Grab my trash can. So I don't have eggshells flying all over the place. So, crack. There's 1. There's 2. 3. And 4. So like I said earlier, we may actually have Carter joining us in a bit to do a little bit of mini painting, because part of this recipe is, well, it's going to be letting things cool, especially with this pastry, because whipped cream, well, it melts easily, and to have a proper cream puff to, you know, stay a cream puff and not a cream melt, you need to have the pastry cool enough to scoop it into. So as you saw, we're just beating these eggs until they're, well, beaten. Set that to the side. And start measuring some other things. Now, thing I'm gonna do, part of our whipped cream is that it needs to be and stay cold. So I highly recommend using a metal mixing bowl to mix your whipped cream in. Not only do I recommend using that, either a hand or stand mixer will do you proper for a proper whipped cream. That is, unless you want to give yourself some carpal tunnel. We are not about that. So, you know those things that you add to a hand mixer? Yeah, we're going to use those, and it needs to stay cold. So we're going to put all of this into our freezer, and it needs to be there at least 10 minutes. At least 10 minutes before you make your whipped cream. We are doing this now because I will probably forget it otherwise. So, but in the meantime, I'm gonna go ahead and do a wee bit of measuring, and by wee bit of measuring, I'm going to measure, well, one thing. And that will be our almond extract right here. Yeah, sorry, my screen went to sleep for a second. What do you think of the playlist? I have not had a chance to listen to it yet because oh goodness, I have spent all day working on that post for, what's it called? For Loot and Dagger. Okay. Just need to take a look at it real quick to see what songs are on there because I am curious. So, at the risk of possibly listening to myself talk, or the background of me talk, I'm just going to bring up the Twitch app once I recognize what they changed their logo to. Let's see. Whisper from Chiptune Brony. Come on. You gonna show me that? Chiptune Brony Curry. Oh. I've still yet to play Pokemon Sword and Shield. I've heard good things about it, though. Okay, we got some Avril Lavigne, Keep Holding On, Can't Hide Love by Earth, Wind & Fire. Oh, Mr. Blue Sky, always a good one. We Will Rock You. Well, you know, adding the Queen songs to that playlist actually works really well, especially with Sword and Shield taking place in essentially, you know, Pokemon version of Britain. So that does amuse me quite a bit. Yeah, I can't remember. Is Sword and Shield available for Switch? Because I know that Victoria from Pixelated Provisions has done some recipes from Sword and Shield, and I think Brian Connor of Level 1 Chef has as well. Let's see here. You need a half a teaspoon, real quick, of almond extract for your whipped cream. And now that's out, I'm just going to set that to the side. It's probably not the best idea to do because a lot of those, what's it called? Aromatic oils are probably going to come out while sitting out there, but it'll be fine. Okay, so for this next part, your dough needs to be cool enough. I'm going to let it just go for another 2 minutes because it's still pretty hot and I don't want the egg to cook really so much when I throw it in there. So I just feel that. I know the egg's going to start cooking if I happen to put there. Stop falling asleep, screen. Okay, let's see here. I'm just going to take a look at this list again, and I'm going to save it, dang it. Maybe I can just open this up in Spotify. Yay, finding stuff on my phone. Let's see if is it a secret playlist? Because then I could just. I'll just have to add it. Let's see, Matt Bad is a songwriter and composer who came from the UK. Nice! Very nice. Yeah, God, I want to go back to the UK. Last time I was there, it was for our honeymoon. And yeah, I miss it. If you ever go, I highly, highly recommend the Pie Maker. Well, if you go to Edinburgh, Scotland, look up the Pie Maker. It is a pie place, like all sorts of savory pies baked daily, and most of them are under 2 pounds a pie. So, like, we're talking pies about maybe this big, or like that big, and yeah, under 2 pounds of pie. So you're essentially spending like $2 a pie. So you can have a pork pie, or a Cornish pasty, or a chicken curry pie, or they have sweet pies too. Highly recommend. Crusts are super flaky and delicious. And I sincerely hope they'll still be around when the pandemic is over. Okay, so our timer went off, so I'm going to pour in a little bit of egg at a time and start stirring that to make this dough super moist and glossy. And the whole deal is you pour some in, stir until it's no longer all that liquidy, and just keep doing it a little bit at a time. Should do you in thirds. Now you might not actually end up using all of it, just to give you a heads up, but that's okay because we're going to use whatever's left as kind of an egg wash to brush over this before baking. Okay. more and a bit more. And as you see, all those little pockets of flour have already gone away now. And yes, you will probably give your arm a workout doing this. Whew. Alright. And that should be our last pour. We're just going to keep that little bit there to make our egg wash. A standard recipe, well, this recipe will either make 36 small or 16 large. We're going to go for the large today. Whew, definitely getting that arm workout. I mean, granted, yes, I could use the big stand mixer, but I didn't want to. I really didn't want to. Okay, so our dough is looking rather lovely, if I do say so myself. Eggs are completely incorporated, but it's got kind of a satin sort of finish to the dough, as you can see. Oh, we're just gonna set that off to the side and just put a splash of water into what's left of this egg. Once again, gonna set that aside. Alright, so next we get to the part where we pipe these suckers. Doop-a-doop-a-doop-a-doo. Here we are. So, you're going to need a stupidly large baking sheet, and by stupidly large, I mean about as large as will fit in your oven. That's the case for me. Then, you are going to need parchment paper. Now, big reason why we're using parchment paper is just like you would cook a souffle, anything like any kind of really heavy egg-based dough works well when there's a bit of water and moisture to help it cook without overheating and, well, you know, burning. So, with that in mind, we're going to have to moisten this parchment paper to make sure that it doesn't burn on us when we cook this stuff. So, I'm just going to get some water in a dish, and I'm just going to brush that onto our parchment paper. It doesn't have to soak it, but just, you know, a nice moisture barrier. Also adds a little bit of steam to help gently cook the rest of it. Oh, hi, Cupcake Dex! Ah, I got a Super Mario raid! Woo! Yay, I'm a woo girl. Welcome, Cupcake Dex, to Munchies and Minis. Thank you for joining us. Hello, Not Warrior 644 and Super Angry Birds. So right now, I am just wetting down a baking sheet full of parchment paper to make some beer-based cream puffs based off of Dungeons & Dragons Forgotten Realms campaign, specifically Volo's Guide to the Dalelands, where the Blackwater Stout is a tavern that serves a licorice-flavored stout as well as cream puffs. So we've made pastry dough, choux pastry dough with a combination of whole milk and Guinness Extra Stout, as well as some Chinese 5-spice powder. And we're going to be making some whipped cream with some almond extract and sea salt. So welcome friends to my stream. We just finished making our dough, and now I just need to pipe the whole lot of it. So let me switch cameras really quick so you can see what I'm doing and not just looking at a giant blank thing of parchment paper. Okay, so I've already made my dough, I've already mixed eggs into it and all that. Now I'm just going to use my pastry press here because my wrist strength is not the best. Pastry bags are not fun for me or my wrists, so we're just going to use this, plus the largest round tip you can find. This was the largest one I could find because the larger one is somewhere in my cupboards. Somewhere. It doesn't matter, we're going to pipe out exactly how much we need. So, we're just going to load that into this best we possibly can. Get back here, dang it. And this is why I rarely do baking or confectionery. I admit I am mostly a savory cook, because by the time I get to this point, usually while cooking, I'm like, no, I just want to be done. I want to nearly finish my dish. I don't want to decorate it, dang it. But that's where we are, and here we are. And you guys are also in luck because my husband is available to do some mini painting tonight. So you'll get to see the D&D village he's been working on 3D printing and painting as of late. So there we go. That's a good amount to start with. Okay, switching cameras. I'll just kind of do this whole thing with the thing and continue to seal the other thing. Okay, cool beans. Let's go back to our prep cam here. So now we've gotten to the point where we just need to pipe this dough into cream puffs. So we're going to be piping about 2-inch large poops, it looks like, admittedly. 2-inch large mounds. That's 1, and there's 2. I know, it looks like a turd. And sounds like one too! Ha! Yay! My headset goes all over the place. Okay. And you want to get those about, air bubbles, making this sound so delightful. About 2 or 3 inches apart from each other. Yes, they will expand. And yes, they still do look like turds. Do forgive me. And this is why we use the pastry press, because my hands are going, no thank you. Alright. Cool. That can be moved a little bit over. Yeah, they might bake together, that's fine. And I already need to refill my dough. Okay. Which is sticking out the sides. Okay. It's fine though. We will make this work. You and me, or, me and me. Herp. Derp. Not the most flattering looking thing I know. And that was not what I meant to do. Seal up, dang it. Get back there. Come on. You will do as I say, not as I do. Come on. Haha! Really? Seriously? Okay, we will make this work. Okay. Made a funny noise again. Alright, now just load more dough. And we've already got our oven preheated to about 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Alright. Bit more in there. I should probably move the camera some so you can see what I'm doing. There we are. Oh, that's a good place to start again. Not the most elegant job, I know, but it works. Here we are. No, there we are. We'll smooth it out in a little bit. Come on. Just pull that in a little bit more. And yes, we are going to smooth those out before we bake them, so we will do our best to not make them look like poop. We'll try. I will say, if you ever want to mess with your head, try making chocolate-flavored choux pastry, or as my friend Sarah likes to refer to as poo pastry. Choux pastry is actually spelled C-H-O-U-X, is actually a thing. It's the same stuff that makes cream puffs. It also makes gougere, as well as, believe it or not, churros. Same principle. You cook the dough in butter. Okay. Add eggs. And churros, you know, pipe it into stupidly hot cooking oil. Well, with cream puffs, you bake it in a rather hot oven. So we are currently at 4. 5. Oh. We're currently at 12. We're going for about 16. So, oh gosh. Now we are at 15, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times 3. We could probably squeeze on a bit more dough, or make these a little bit larger. Yeah, we'll make these a bit larger. So we still have a little bit of dough left. Yeah. Switching cameras again. Right. There we go. Alright. Let's see. Chiptune Brony says, made a nice curd, 2 oranges, 2 small lemons, a lime, called it a high C curd. That sounds delicious, actually. So. Okay, that's about as much as I'm going to make. At least I have patience in making. So, now I just need to kind of smooth them out some with my fingers. Which I'm got that cup of water. Just gonna wet a finger here and just kind of smooth that out so it stop looking so, well, turd-like. So now it just looks more like a little happy bun. Or just, a bun. I'm not really sure if the dough has an emotion. I realize that, I am humanizing the dough and therefore accepting the fact that the dough has rights. And right now its right is to not look like a pile of excrement. So I'm sure that it's happy for me doing that. Time will tell, and so will the baking, admittedly. So, smoothing that out. And this also keeps it from sticking to your fingers as you're doing so. All right. And admittedly, this also adds a little bit more water to that parchment paper, which will help it steam while baking, and that is a good thing. Trust me. Okay. Well, that looked a little bit like an alien, and I kind of liked it, but There we go. And like I said, I figured to be happy to not look like a pile of excrement. Do you want to look like a pile of excrement? Little cream puff dough pieces?
No, we do not. Do not make us look like we came out from a cow's behind. That would not be very happy. That would make me sad.
Okay. Right. So, it's wet. Dump that water then. You don't need it anymore. Now we're just going to take that egg wash that we made earlier with the leftover beaten egg, and we're going to brush it onto each happy little Choux Pastry potential puff. Go, go, Choux Pastry potential puffs. Okay. And you can also throw that out. Well, don't technically throw it, because then you'd break your measuring cup, and that would make you very sad. And then have to spend the next half an hour trying to pick up and sweep up broken glass shards around your kitchen, which is not a fun thing to do. It does not make me happy. It does not make you happy, and it will not make your cream puffs happy. So, do not throw it away, just put it in the sink and rinse it out. So, we've got our pastry all on the thing. So we're gonna put it into the thing being the oven. We're gonna put it in there and hopefully not have it collapse on me, because there's way too much parchment paper on it, but right, you put it into the oven about 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Set your timer for about 10 minutes. I think it's 10 minutes. Let me check my own instructions that I wrote yesterday. 20 minutes. You bake it for 20 minutes first. So, changing the timer to 20 minutes. And putting this dish towel that fell on the floor into the laundry. Cool. So this is the part where I start A, cleaning up, and B, making our filling, i.e. that delicious almond-flavored whipped cream I was telling you about earlier. And I'm just going to go ahead and do that now, because it's going to take a while for that pastry to cool enough to be able to pipe it in. So, do a bit of cleaning up my kitchen. And now we need to make some whipped cream. So, what you need. Remember that metal bowl with the beaters that I put into the freezer earlier? You can take it out now. And oh look, it's frosty. So, take those beaters out. And now you need some heavy cream. It is right over here. Cool. So, you will need about a cup of heavy cream. So we're just gonna pour in a cup of heavy cream. That totally did not turn into butter while I was grocery shopping yesterday. Yes. So, about a cup. Pour that in there. And then put the cup away because you don't need it anymore. Next, we're going to add that, I think it was half a teaspoon of almond extract. Into that, we're going to put in about 2 to 3 tablespoons of powdered sugar. So, is there a measuring cup in here already? I wondered where that measuring cup was. Huh. You're going into the sink. Okay. So there's 1. There's 2. And oh, what the heck, let's do 3. And then put that away, you don't need it anymore. I mean, you might. We'll just use a half teaspoon, not a tablespoon instead. So we got that, we got that, and that giant amount of sea salt we ground up earlier. Yeah, we're not going to put all of that in there. We're just going to add just a wee pinch, maybe a tiny bit more. Okay. Now, I just need to unplug my kettle because I don't need it right now, and plug in my hand mixer that I totally did not win from a cookie contest from a bar years and years ago when they still had cookie contests. Alright. Some very cold beaters. And a very cold bowl. A very cold whipped cream. Yeah. Get in there, beater. I command it. Alright, and now I'm just going to set a timer for about 3 minutes because I don't really trust myself to know what I'm doing. And now we're just going to start out whipping this at around medium speed. Medium high. You don't want to go too high because then it's not going to set up properly. And you want to whip it until you got medium peaks, not soft peaks or stiff peaks. When you take it out of the cream, it should stick a little bit and stay up. Well, it will still fall, but just not immediately. But as you can see, it's already starting to thicken up on us. We got about a minute and a half left. We'll check it real quick. We're about that. You just don't want it to turn into butter, which it can do if you go a little too long and a little too hard on it. So we're going to just turn our speed down a little bit. Because you want something that'll ideally go into a cream puff. Not something that you can spread on toast and then make a grilled cheese sandwich with. Let's see how we're doing. That looks and tastes for about what we're going for. And is it scoopable? Yes, that is. That is very scoopable. They're a very good whipped cream. So, oh, that's delicious. You kind of want the consistency of Cool Whip without it, tasting like Cool Whip, because Cool Whip tastes awful. And oh look, we are at our 3-minute mark. So, I'm just going to stick the whole thing into the fridge to keep it cold. That is, if I happen to have room in the fridge. I do. Just have to move some pizza and other things that you happen to find in a food blogger's fridge because they are tired of cooking for themselves. Well, they're tired by the time they get to cooking them for themselves. Okay, cool. I know, you may be tempted to open that oven. Don't. You don't. Just no. Big part of cooking choux pastry, cream puffs, is that it needs that time to bake and steam in the oven. Otherwise, it'll fall apart like a flan in a cupboard. And yes, I was quoting Eddie Izzard right there. So, we are avoiding that by leaving it alone. Yes. So what am I going to do for the next 12 minutes? Well, I'm going to clean the kitchen. However, my husband, that is if he's still standing around here, would like to show you a bit of mini painting he's been working on. Hey, babe? Want to do some painting? Cool. We can switch microphones and everything. And you know what? You should have a beer. I'll open it for you, just if you get to painting. So yes. Carteristas, everyone.
Hey everyone! So, last time I was on, I showed off some of the 3D printed items that I have been making and painting. For instance, here is one. I'm gonna switch over there. This lovely little cottage here. So you can see inside you got, you know, bed, table, stuff like that. I showed some of these items off, but I didn't do any real practical painting on them. So for today, I've got some 3D printed items. Again, this is the same modular system that we've used before from printablescenery.com. I really love their stuff. I highly recommend whenever they have a Kickstarter out that looks like something you would like, get on the Kickstarters, because that's where you get a really great deal on a full set where you're not buying things, you know, files piece by piece. So, to kind of show off the basics here, I have just a few pieces. So, I've got 2 stone pieces, one just a plain wall, one wall with a door, and then 2 kind of stucco Tudor style pieces. So this is wood framing over with a wattle and daub stucco, and then just 2 pieces of roof section. They're honestly exactly the same, so we'll probably only do one of those. So, one thing I want to point out is we're just going to be using really, really basic paints here. These are craft store paints. This is not something, you know, these are not really mini paints. It's just super simple, and it's cheap and it's easy. So, first thing we're gonna start off doing a couple washes. I've got these stone pieces. Everything here, I've already done a primer on it, just in cheap hardware store black spray paint. Just a black matte spray. Most of these started off, most of these started off as just gray plastic from my printer. I think some of them were blue plastic. It's just the filament, the PLA I had. So to start off these stones, we're just going to start off with this dark gray here. And I'm just going to take a little blob of that, and we're going to get a little bit of water in our dish here. All right, and I'm just taking a very simple, you know, kind of wide bristle brush. This one's a little softer. I'll go with that. I'm gonna dip in the water. We're just gonna get a little, you know, a drop of water in this bit of paint here. Make it a little more liquid, little easier to run, and we are just gonna super quick kind of glob that on here. This is the easy part. This is, we've got a prime coat on this stuff. You know, I might have even put a little too much water in it, so I'm gonna add a little more paint. Because we're not doing any sort of wash, this is just painting these pieces gray. We don't want to push down deep into all those cracks and crevices. You know, if stuff runs in the crevices, that's fine, but there's no need to push it down there, because, you know, if you got a nice, you know, black bit down in those cracks, that's just going to add a little more depth. And we get all the sides of it.
Oh, and I answered Chick Brody's question. His name is Carter. Spelled C.
Hi, I'm Carter. Husband to the gluttonous geek. And just super quick base coat.
No rush, by the way. It's gonna take time for the stuff to cool too.
Yeah, we're gonna set that one aside. Then again, this door frame section. Again, super quick base coat on it. And a lot of the key to this is, because I will do dozens of these at a time, is just, you're not going to switch between pieces. You are going to switch between pieces. You're not going to switch between colors very often.
Chiptune Brony asks Carter, what is your favorite Pokemon?
Oh, it's Bulbasaur. Bulbasaur's number one. Number one. Yeah. Don't even step to Bulbasaur.
He says his favorite is Mew.
Ancient Pokemon. The first Pokemon. No, doesn't matter. Bulbasaur is still number one. Mew is what? 150, 151? No, Bulbasaur. All the way. 100%. I'll take Bulba to the Master Round. Let's fight Team Rocket with Bulbasaur. Hell yeah.
I'm basic. My favorite is Pikachu. Mostly because I want to cuddle it.
Alright.
I shouldn't want to cuddle it, but it's just so precious.
Here we go. Super simple, quick base on those. We're going to set those off to the side to dry. Now you got to assume, when I'm typically doing this, I'm doing dozens and dozens and dozens of gray stone walls. Just, it takes a while. Just keep on trucking with those. So, the next thing we're going to do in getting our base coats is, for this, I'm going to need a slightly finer brush.
Hold on. Sorry about that, guys.
Alright. Get a slightly finer brush, something with a bit of a chiseled edge on it. Brush not in great condition, because it's just been used a bit. And we're just going to take this this basic brown. And this is going to be our wood. And actually, I don't want this to run, so I'm not going to add any water to it. And we're going to go over our wood pieces. So, for instance, on these roof, there's a wood edge, your fascia board along the roof line. So we're gonna hit those real quick with our dark brown. Make sure to kind of wrap it around the unseen edges, just so you don't have unpainted bits poking through. And super quick and simple. Go a little heavier with it. Set that aside.
Another question from Chip Toon Brownie. Do you know a few tracks written by Hiroki Kikuta for anyone else's game? I can't say that I do, but I would suggest if you have Spotify, it's you can totally just click on the name of the artist, and it should show you what other soundtracks and everything they happen to have works on. So I just highly recommend that. Okay, so the timer's going off, and just real quick, I'm going to switch to the stove cam to show you what I'm about to do. I'm about to... This is when you turn your temperature down to about 350 degrees Fahrenheit. No matter how much you want to, do not open that oven. And you're just going to put the timer on for another 10 minutes.
Okay.
And let it continue to bake that next 10 minutes. So...
Y'all hear that? 350 degrees. Don't open the oven. Put it on for another 10 minutes. Alright. So now we've switched over pieces. Just getting this door with some basic brown. Super quick and simple. Only thing I'm being somewhat careful around is the door knocker. It doesn't need to be painted brown. We're going to go back over that with a fine detail brush with an iron color. So it's better if it's got a black base. So just basically don't paint it. Switch over to the prep.
Okay, there's one for the trial track, Hazelnut Bastille, and the other mainstream for... I have not heard of those games. I'll check them out. Especially with something with the word hazelnut in it. I love hazelnuts. Though admittedly, as far as games are concerned, I've been playing and replaying Baldur's Gate 3. Though I just downloaded Pathfinder Kingmaker, and I'm gonna try to play that probably. Oh gosh, maybe tomorrow afternoon or something. I still need to convert my D&D character. I was about to do a 3.5 game with Strike and a couple other friends, but they decided they'd rather do 5th Ed, so I have to convert a 3.5 edition Dragon Shaman to a 5th edition Dragon Shaman, which is not an official class in D&D 5e. So it's actually on DM's Guild. Someone created the source material for that, so I have to go in and do the maths, all the maths. But also, God, another game we recently got was for free. It was this diving game that looks like it had kind of a exploration kind of diving game with music and all that. Still haven't downloaded that yet. Epic Games had it for free for a little while, so went ahead and snagged that. Just need to play it.
I have been playing Styx, Shards of Darkness. It is the second in the Styx universe. It's an excellent game. If you like sneaky thief stealth games, stealth assassin games. It's pretty awesome. And to change things up a bit, you actually play as a goblin. It has been a lot of fun, but also very frustrating. And when you die, Styx does curse at you. Yeah, he just berates you incessantly of how awful you are at playing. Yeah.
Oh, and to answer your question, Chiptune Brony, acrylic is actually decent to use on canvas. Just keep in mind that it is a water-based paint and it will dry quickly. So it's not like oil where you can just freeze the painting and then still kind of mess around with the colors. No, you've got to work with it pretty quickly if you're doing any kind of gradient, for example. And keep in mind, this is the really cheap acrylic paint that, like, the craft store stuff. I mean,
This is the stuff you give to the kids.
well, it doesn't necessarily have to be the stuff like that. That's when you get the tempera paint out, but which is basically chalk paint. But yeah, no, this it's actually pretty decent with canvas. So yeah, just make sure you know where you want to put it. I mean, though I guess the nice thing about paint is if you don't like it, you just cover it up. I mean, yeah. I used to take art classes like back when I was in high school. So, well, outside of high school because I was in chorus. And you can only take like one other elective, then whatever. So, yeah. So yeah, if you want to give it a shot, it's cheap enough. Go for it. Have fun.
So to let you know, we're doing the basic the basic wood coats on these Tudor finish pieces. This is the tedious part where you got to go in. You know, it's kind of you got to keep it in the lines. All these little wooden bits here that we want those a nice dark brown to start with. And we'll do a nice light color over the stucco, the wattle and daub areas afterwards. But it still goes fairly quick here. Just not as quick as the stone. If I was making an entire village of stone only, that would go a lot faster. Especially since I'm doing just a super basic gray stone. Obviously, you know, when you get into multicolor, various ranges of stone, it gets more complicated. But mine is a super basic. Start off with black, hit it with dark gray all over, and then a light gray dry brush. Alright. I'm also going to add to this little section down here where it's going to meet the flooring. I don't know how much y'all can see, but yeah. Because I know the floor is going to be wood where it meets up with the stucco. Get a little bit on the sides there. The sides aren't going to be seen, but it kind of helps from anything showing through, so to speak. And I need a little more brown in my container. Just a drop at a time. You know, we work with very small amounts, so we don't waste much paint in the end. Okay, so that piece is good to set aside. And this last one, this is a super simple. I like these. A lot more of the stucco than the wood. No fiddly bits. Just kind of a T-post in the middle. And really, when you're looking at this among 100 others, the detail is not as important. Speed is important when it comes to this sort of terrain. You will drive yourself crazy if you try to be too precise. You will also probably throw out your back as you lean over it. Already starting to feel a little burn in my neck.
Yeah, every time I finish a stream, I'm sitting down and just go, oh crap, I have a spine. I forgot that I had a spine. That's what a spine feels like, isn't it? So, alright, we are in the last minute of those green puffs. Absolute last. Now, at this point, it's okay to check the oven because we're about at that 10-minute mark. If it isn't quite at that golden brown, which it will be, you'll want to give it maybe another 2 to 5 minutes, checking maybe every 2 minutes or so. But I've got a feeling this is going to turn out all right. So I'm just going to grab my pot holders for the last 20 seconds of our choux pastry. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. That looks pretty darn baked. Take it out.
As we all should be.
Yeah, as you see, I've switched the camera over. So now I just need to transfer all of these to a cooling rack to cool completely before filling them with cream. As you can see, they puffed up rather nicely. No, you're not allowed to have one yet. Continue to paint things while waiting for these to cool.
Okay. So those have to dry a bit. In fact, I got a little fan here. We're gonna set these. Now, typically when I do this, like I said, I will do dozens at a time. So, you know, by the time you reach the last one, the first one is completely dry. But for right now, just having 2 of each needs a little more time to dry. And we're going to put those in front of a little fan off to the side to help with that. But in this process, the only point where I've ever actually mixed any paints is for the rooftops. And my formula for my rooftops here is I do 5 drops of this bright blue. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then 1 drop of black. That's just what I've found looks really good for this roof color that I like. And we're just going to grab this brush here and mix that up. And I only ever do this, few drops at a time, but I keep that ratio. Maybe if I know I'm going to do a big roof section, I'll do 10 drops of blue and 2 of black, but I typically just like to work in that small amount at a time. Just makes waste and cleanup and stuff easier. And Just gonna slather that on these roof tiles. Look at that. Super quick. I can do a little more attention, make sure we wrap around the edges. I'll, you know, get down the sides a bit, just because I know, you know, if there's any gaps when these pieces sit together, I don't want a black line showing through. You don't really have to do this, but I like to just kind of, you know, wrap it around the side, the unseen sides of the paint. And you know, if there's some darker bits and lighter bits, that's okay. This is gonna come out, the variety, you know, the less true uniformity you have, it's just gonna add to the texture of everything when it comes out in the end. Hit those edges a bit. I'm gonna keep hitting it a bit to kind of make sure I don't have any puddles, any bits that are gonna just take longer to dry, and then plop it in front of that little fan. And those are all the pieces I had pulled out for now. So we're gonna switch to some stuff I have on my on the little table here on the setup. For example, so this piece here, this is a Cauldron Golem. And if y'all were with me last time, this was the piece that we painted super quick. It had a black matte spray on it, and we just did some iron color, iron metallic, and just did a dry brush over it. It really brought out those color, the texture of it great. The one thing I'm disappointed in is, you know, I did some tiny little dots of color to do these green glowing eyes, and they just didn't come out. But we're gonna play around with this a bit more here. So I'm gonna take a brighter color. This is Robin's Egg Blue. And honestly, for these small details, I don't even pour out a dot or a drip on my tray. I'm just gonna get my tiniest brush, pull the cap off the paint, and dip it in the cap, because we just want the tiniest little bit. But I know this will pop a bit more for the eyes. I mean, they almost look kind of white-ish, but they definitely show up better. And we're going to rinse that brush off. And then what I'm going to do is we're going to imagine that this Cauldron Golem was formed. You know, my idea for this part of the campaign is I have the Alchemist Guild, and the players go down to the Alchemist Guild, and there's a summoning circle on the floor, but there's all these cauldrons and stuff just stacked up in the corners, and maybe they trigger something or something happens, and these cauldrons come together to form this golem. But you know what? Let's say those cauldrons sitting over in the corner, they're not all empty, or they're not all clean. So, here we go. We got this lovely celery is the name of this color. And we're going to take a nice globby bit of that, and we're going to go into the cracks here. Let's say, and get into the underside there. Let's say that cauldron actually had some stuff in it that ends up leaking and dripping down. Somebody didn't follow proper cauldron etiquette and wash out their cauldron afterwards. And honestly, that's just dangerous because you get an unwashed cauldron that's going to contaminate the next spell that's in it, and then you have unwanted consequences. We're just adding drips and drops. It's just leaking down the sides from that shoulder. I don't know where to hold this thing.
Also, Chips, running asked, do you play Worms at all? You ever played Worms?
Worms? Like Worms Armageddon? Like way back in the day, yeah.
I like Worms too. It was like a demo on Mac Magazine or something. Yeah. The little kamikaze one was my favorite.
Yes. So we're just filling in around that. That seems like that shoulder cauldron is going to be a big leaker there. Trying to get that to focus. Yeah, I like all the drips and drops on that one. I got it. There we go. Alright, and that looking nice on that side. So that left shoulder was leaking some green oozy bits. So we'll seal that up, and this right side, we're going to go for grape taffy, a light purple color. Just shake that up, and right there in the cap, that's all we need. Oh yeah. So we're just going to come and have that leaking and dripping from the armpit. This is a sweaty golem. Just oozing from his armpits. Various concoctions. We're just gonna make him a bit messy. Because, you know, sometimes the great details come not from perfection, but from mess. I mean, that already is just telling more of a story for me. And that story is proper cauldron cleaning etiquette. It's important. And you're going to teach your players this. It's that leaky golem that, you know, is going to make those alchemists and wizards learn that this is something you gotta take seriously. Get lots of oozy bits there. That's a good little bit of purple. My brush, set them aside, and I want some red to pop in that. So we're just gonna go with some bright red paint. And I'm thinking this foot down here, that foot was filled with a red potion. It's leaking out the side, splashing over. You know, keep an idea of where your lines are, where gravity lets things fall. I mean, I know I am by no means a pro when it comes to mini painting, and I'm sure there are those who will look at my technique and laugh because they've been painting Warhammer for decades, but I am having fun with this. And that just instantly bumped up the story on this piece of all these dirty drips coming from these pots. So yeah, and I think I like where that's at. I don't want to do too much. You know, you can't overdo it, obviously. But yeah, there's our Cauldron Golem bubbling over. Okay. So guys, I'm going to pass you back over to my lovely wife. And move the minis aside.
Yeah, I don't know what that's like at all. Okay, and we're back. The cream puffs are for the most part, well, the pastry for the cream puffs is for the most part cool at this point. So we're going to go ahead and slice them open and start putting some of that fresh whipped cream in them. Of course, we're going to have to move some of the stuff out of the way. Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much, babe, for doing a little bit of painting and demonstration while we were waiting for those to cool. I mean, that's the thing. It's gotta cool enough to put whipped cream in it. Otherwise, you're just gonna be pouring cream directly into it, and it defeats the whole purpose of making cream puffs. So let's not do that. Let's move on to filling cream puffs. First, I'm just gonna. Oh, okay, okay. Cool. So, just switching over here. These are all baked up rather nice and for the most part cool. So now it is time to cut them, stuff them, and decorate them. Yes, we're gonna kind of decorate them. Because otherwise they would look like a standard cream puff, and I am not about that. So, we're just gonna take a sharp knife, like a paring knife here. And we're just going to cut the top. Enough so you can open it up like so. So we're just going to do that with all of these. You kind of want to rotate as you cut. This will also let a little bit more of that heat out, which is good for putting that fresh whipped cream in there. It is okay if you go all the way through. You just want to make sure that you have it so they're able to match up a little bit. There we go. And I think this is a good number to start. Well, that one didn't turn out as well, but that's okay because I've got 15 others that turned out perfect. Okay. Cool. So, those are all sliced open, and it's time to start filling them. So we're going to need about a tablespoon of whipped cream in each one. Here we are, tablespoon. And see? Looking perfect, right? See, this one matches up, right? Yeah. Thought I lost that for a second. And last two. One and two. But wait, there's more. So as far as the ones that I've kind of made to be ready to decorate, I'm just gonna add 3 more things onto here. First, you'll need honey, which we are just going to drizzle the top of. Next, you're going to need some sliced almonds. I like to put garnishes that kind of signal the flavor in whatever I'm making. That way people kind of know what they're getting into, and then if they have an allergy, they can see right away if they can or can't have that dish. So if you have a nut allergy, you can already see this is a bad idea. Just add a little bit more honey so it sticks. Okay, and the last touch, just a quick seasoning of that sea salt. And we are done with our Blackwater Stout cream puffs. I'm just gonna try one really quick here. Just give that a drizzle. Nuts and teensy bit of salt. Mmm. 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 That is excellent. Okay. You can actually still taste the stout, the beer, and the 5-spice powder in the mix, which I'm really, really happy about. A wee bit more, bit of honey for the photos. Try to make the salt a little more visible. Anyway, I would like to thank you for joining me for Munchies and Minis this week. Today's recipe was a basically beer-based cream puff with an almond sea salt cream based off of Bolo's Guide to the Dalelands from 3.5 edition of Dungeons and Dragons, the Blackwater Stout tavern in a place which is off the top of my head not there. I've been cooking for 2 hours. So, yes, next week we should be returning once again Wednesday night. Well, no, we will not be doing Wednesday night because we are going to be meeting up with my parents, but I'm going to try to push it to Tuesday night. Either Tuesday night or Friday night for Munchies and Minis. I promise I will get my butt out to H Mart to get a bamboo steamer so we can make that milk pudding based off of Monarchies of Mouth from Pugmire. I promise. So that's what to look forward to next week, either Tuesday or Friday night. Keep an eye out on my social media. I want to thank you for everyone who stayed and did not stay and who just came up on the stream. It was good to see you. And you all have a wonderful night. As always, stay safe, stay sane, stay you. My name is Catherine Barsonistas, and have a wonderful rest of your evening. Goodbye.